Hi Gina.
Hi Ione, hi everyone, I'm Gina, the senior editor of Polyester.
And I'm Ione, the founding editor-in-chief of Polyester, and this is the Polyester Podcast, a feminist pop culture podcast dissecting the discourse on a weekly basis.
Before we start, if you're a fan of this podcast, please make sure to like, rate and subscribe. And if you really love us, you can sign up for a podcast membership, where you can join our WhatsApp and get on our Instagram close friends for only £3 a month. Do you have any reviews, Ione?
We do. 5 stars, never stop. I look forward to this podcast every week. Feels like an extension of the conversations I have with my friends, but with way better research and humour. Would make me so sad if you ever stopped. Sad face by Emiranda 0304 via Apple Podcasts in Japan.
Better humour than your mates.
Oh no, that's mean. I'm sure it's not true either. I'm sure it's not true.
Yeah, I'm just being silly.
Thank you for the review though.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I love you. Today we are talking about the lesbian pop renaissance.
Lesbian pop stars are everywhere now. Everyone's a lesbian and we are getting into it.
Why do you sound so cynical already?
I don't sound cynical. I'm excited.
So, if anyone has been keeping up with Coachella, maybe some of you went to Coachella. If so, I'd like to hear your experience because it looks fucking mental to me. You all have seen clips of Chappell Roan's set. We should probably declare our fandom here, Gina.
Yeah, we do. We're big fans of Chappell and the Polyester team, the Polyester studio, individually as women, as fans, as music connoisseurs. We love Chappell Roan.
We were early supporters of Miss Roan. We had a feature out with her last year. If you got the Dollhouse scene, which you get if you support us, you would have seen the feature, but it's also on the website.
Yeah, I got to interview her, and we did a really cool shoot. It came out last September, but if you just Google Polyester scene Chappell Roan, it comes up.
Yeah?
Yeah, big fan. That's it. Podcast over.
So, Chappell Roan's been going viral because she has released a new single. Her album came out last year. Around the time we featured her, The Rise and the Fall of a Midwest Princess.
Yeah, which absolutely banger after banger.
Would you like to tell us about her as the woman that interviewed her, Gina?
Yeah, so Chappell Roan has been kind of I found her off TikTok. I'm not sure about how everyone else found her. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. She's one of those people that just kind of appeared online and then everyone knew who she was, I feel like. But then now she's gaining way more traction, maybe in the mainstream. She's just broke the top one. Is it called the top 100? The top 100? Hot 100?
The Billboard Hot 100, yeah.
Yeah. So she's just broke that. So she's entering the mainstream now, which is something that a lot of queer pop stars kind of never do. Obviously, everyone in our community knows who Renee Rap is and maybe Janelle Monáe, but they're not really people who chart in the way that this new song for Chappell is charting. She was originally scouted from online and signed to a record label in 2017, I think it was. And she was dubbed she's going to be the next Lord. And then she made a queer song during lockdown, and I think her record label were oh, this isn't really the direction we wanted to go in, and dropped her. And then she continued hustling, she was working a day job and then also doing small intimate shows at night, and kind of the word of mouth spread through her online presence, but as well as she's got an amazing live show, which I think is why she's going viral off the Coachella thing, because everyone's oh, this is sick to see live. As well as just the music standing up is really good on its own, which is surprising because I feel there's a lot of things that people always complaining about live music at the minute, but yeah, so she's just kind of been slowly building this kind of cult following almost online of queer women and queer men and queer people, but primarily queer women, because she's a queer woman who sings explicitly about her experience as a queer woman, and then obviously this song she's then supported Olivia Rodrigo, I think twice. This is her second time around supporting her on tour.
No, I don't think so.
I think it is, because she said to me she'd done it before.
Well, there was a graph, lol, so some man obviously has made a graph to correlate her success and her listeners over time, but it also only goes to November last year, which seems really harsh. And she started opening for Olivia Rodrigo in February 23. Oh, wait, that's last year, right?
Yeah, she did last year, and then she's like back on tour with If It Gets Tour.
Oh no, I think it's meant to be like the 23rd of February.
Oh, like American
But
writing.
because they're American, they've written it weird. Yeah. So before the tour, she had like 1.5 million followers. And now, oh no, sorry, Spotify monthly listeners. And now, April 12th, just after Coachella, she has 5 million monthly Spotify listeners.
It's like 5.5 now.
Yeah, it's going up so quickly. And between that, we've had the opening for Olivia Rodrigo, the Tiny Desk performance, Good Luck Babe released, and the Coachella performances.
Yeah, and she did like... Oh, sorry, did you just say about her being on the telly?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was
on... Oh, no, she did like a late night show.
Yeah, she did like a late night with Seth Meyers, or like one of those kind of ones that we don't really have here, but I remember that went very well because of how good the like the set design, obviously like her performance style is, like just really resonates, I think, with people.
Yeah, I feel like it's really interesting because she has such a clear aesthetic vision, which is something that's a bit not rare because everyone does have aesthetic visions, but it seems like Chappell's kind of like whole thing as a pop star in that she's like very influenced by drag, and she seems like very influenced by DIY culture as well, and it seems like some of it at least comes from like a bit of a rookie aesthetic. That's something quite new. Like Olivia Rodrigo's done very down the line kind of Petra Collins, teen, girly, which also I love, by the way, so none of this is shade. I'd say like Renee Rap doesn't really have that much of an aesthetic, but people are probably going to come for me for
that. She's probably got an aesthetic that we just haven't registered, or it's not like quite as bold, or I suppose isn't something that maybe like aligns so much with what we're looking for in aesthetics.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Chappell Roan's literally just like made for me and you and Polyester people directly. So
yeah, literally like cooked up in a lab, like what would they like? And then all the cogs turn, and then like a machine like spire out and was like, here you go. But then I guess what's interesting is, did the machine spit her out?
No, don't be nasty.
Did the machine spit her out? I don't think it did, but I think it's gonna lead to lots of copycats. Like I can see it already. Like there's gonna be a lot of people replicating this aesthetic, which is like, I'm kind of like getting a bit cynical already of like what's going to be the future for queer pop representation, because as soon as like these companies or labels see that something sells, they just all start trying to like monopolize on it. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like we're on the edge of maybe something strange going to happen.
Yeah, well, even like this week on Twitter, Seaham put up like a throwback to our Rachel Sennett photo shoot, which was like really influenced by Delight.
Yeah.
That's her name, right, G?
Yeah.
Like that was on my mood board. That was basically like the main reference on my mood board. And everyone was like quote tweeting being like, she's copying Chappell. It's like, oh my god, this aesthetic did not originate with her.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think her fans are going to be really rabid and weird. Like I can just see it happening already, and I feel really bad for her because like when I interviewed her, when I was doing my research for that interview, which was like in September, I think, she didn't. I want to say it's Cosmopolitan, but I might be wrong. But I didn't include in my actual finished write-up. But I asked her, like, she's basically gone on the record and said, like, oh, I feel really weird, like, with some of my fans. They give me too much TMI. They're too, like, parasocial. She was like, Chappell Roan's a character. Me as Kaylee's quite reserved, like, shy, like, quiet. Like, I don't really like talking about sex. Like, I don't really put myself out there. Chappell Roan's persona, but so many, as, like, a figurehead for, like, lesbian pop now, and this has only grown so much since September, so I can only imagine where she is now. She's like, it's something that she felt like a bit on the precipice about, because she was about to, well, she didn't say she was about to blow up. I said, like, you're about to blow up, like, are you scared? And she was kind of like, yeah, it's a bit nerve-wracking, like, thinking how many people are gonna assume this, like, connection with her, and it's not even her, like, it's a persona.
That's really interesting because there's this article on Billboard called Not Just Luck, Why Queer Pop Star Chappell Roan Broke Through to the Hot 100 and Why It Matters by Hannah Jocelyn. And it's kind of saying the opposite. Like, it's like, oh, she really worked hard at it for ages. So basically what you said. So she was positioned as the next Lord after a 2017 single, moved to LA, Pink Pony Club came out, which is like a queer song, like a gay song very specifically, and I feel like it has like quite a lot of references that maybe a straight audience wouldn't fully grasp on first listen, if that makes sense. Like it's very specifically catered for a queer audience, I'd say. But then she had to move home, and like a lot of people are like, oh my god, overnight success, but really she's been kind of like chipping away at it. But at the same time, she compares herself to Hannah Montana quite a lot because of what you said, like Kaylee is like a different person to Chappell Roan. But this kind of leads me to, I feel like we're in a really interesting, the queer pop like renaissance and the sapphic pop renaissance specifically is bringing back a type of like fandom and a type of earnest appreciation for musicians that has kind of been uncool to do for a while. Like I feel like because we're in the circles we're in, we've always seen like Arena Sawayama stan or like rabid Charlie XCX stans, but it hasn't been like my whole Twitter feed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's also those kind of, I feel like there's like a touch of irony to that kind of like standing. Like you'd go see Charlie XCX and you'd bring a bottle of poppers for her to sign, but you'd go see Chappell Roan and be like, you're amazing, like what you're doing is incredible, like thank you. Like you'd just want to be earnest back to her because that's what like what she's given out into the universe.
Yeah, and I think her kind of aesthetic and whole persona doesn't really lend itself to irony that much. Like her lyrics are very passionate, and like even if they are full of jokes, they're not like ironic jokes. They're not winking at the audience or trying to get one over on the audience.
Yeah, there's definitely like an element of emotion in them, and I think that's interesting because she said to me, and she said like lots of times that like a lot of the stories are just like made up. Like she likes storytelling, like because so many of the songs are narrative. Like I think the emotions are true, but a lot of the stories aren't. And it's interesting that like not everyone who's listening to her, but a lot of the people who do listen to her and really enjoy her music can like cut through to that core as well. Like you don't need the stories to be true. Whereas we had like a really interesting article on the Dollhouse about like the authenticity of like like sad pop stars, like by Genius and stuff, and being like people don't see that as like much of putting on a show as like say Chappell Roan, but why would we take their storytelling for being real and Chappell's is not, because of like the aesthetic. And I thought that was really interesting because I feel like both inspire like the same amount of emotions in me, but it's like in a wider context you can imagine people like seeing Chappell as having like an art, like would look at her and think that it would be artificial, but then when you listen to the music there's like that core of emotion that she's done really well at like getting across, I think.
Yeah. That's really, this whole time I'm just like silently laughing at us trying to do up music journalism in this episode.
I'm just like telling what other people have written for us.
And me, a notoriously miss, I don't like music.
And Ione, who doesn't have her own Spotify account, Gambo.
I don't have my own Spotify account. I don't walk around with headphones, but I do like music.
Yeah, you like an album and then we listen to it for like 3 weeks and then you're like, right, I've got a favourite single now. Can that go in the mix? And then we gradually like turn into a new album. I don't think that disqualifies us anyway. I think like we're, as fans of something, it's worth looking into why you're fans of it. And like if we can do it for movies and stuff like that, I don't think we're too far removed from being able to do it about musicians either, just because we're not specialties in it.
So Chappell Roan is, contrary to our beliefs, not the only lesbian pop star that has made a splash at Coachella in particular. So Renee Rap, who we have spoken about on this podcast before, but feels like a very Gen Z pop star, like, or celebrity more than anything. Like, I feel like people like Chappell have a bit more crossover, but Renee Rap is very Gen Z in my mind.
Are you saying that because you don't get it?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't really get it. I don't know, like I like that Pretty Girl song and I like her album cover. Now
I'll be honest, I haven't listened to any of the songs.
But I didn't, I've not really like got fallen hook, line and sinker for her personality. Sounds so harsh, but do you know what I mean?
Her persona.
Yeah, her persona. I've not really like bought into.
I watched the new Mean Girls for my sins, and it was really, really bad. Like,
was she bad
terrible,
in it?
Apart from Avantika, who was amazing, and our cover girl. I mean, she wasn't bad, but like she wasn't good either. Like I wouldn't say, wow, that's an incredible performance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough. I've not watched it. I can't say.
I think they should have just done more with it. Like, I think they should have done more with it and tried to make it more different to the original, and that's just my opinion on it. Like, the only thing they tried to change about her was
her outfits.
the styling, yeah, which is probably more Renee than, you know, like production. Well, it's both, but you know what I mean? Like, she probably led that change rather than it being a production-specific change.
Yeah, and I remember loads of people were kicking off about the costuming.
Yeah, like, I'm not even saying it was good. Anyway, so she has been kind of going through this journey in which originally she was bi and then now she's like fully a lesbian, and then it kind of feels like it's culminated in this Coachella set. She had like scissoring imagery all over her set, like in the AV, and then she also brought like Kesha out and everyone was like, whoa.
Did she? That's amazing.
Yeah, she brought Kesha out and they changed the lyric of "Wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy" to "Wake up in the morning like fuck P. Diddy."
Oh my god, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Way to ruin a great song.
No one should ever reference another person, like another famous person in their song ever.
Well, maybe if they're dead, you know that they were fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, still though, you might not know.
Why? What dead people gossip you got?
No, wait, like Jimmy Savile, that all came out after he died.
They were waiting on that though, weren't they?
I don't know how we've gotten so far.
Right, carry on. Kesha, she brought Kesha out and she loved scissoring.
And then Billie Eilish teased gay music, which is, yeah.
Good for her.
And has been like walking around kind of dressed a lot more butch coded. And obviously she was like quote unquote forced to come out last year, which was a bit of a contentious thing anyway, as to because she openly spoke about it in the interview and then was asked on a red carpet. People who have listened to the pod for a long time will remember because we spoke about it at the time, right?
Yeah.
But Siham put in the notes, which Siham did this week again. Thank you, Siham. Also, Siham, lesbian pop scholar. So Billie kind of is one of the people that has a history for being queer baited and like accused of queer baiting. And something that was interesting to me is that in this new conversation of the lesbian pop renaissance, which is what I'm calling it, is that there has been no accusations of queer baiting.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really interesting, especially because I feel like not like a year, 2 years ago, everyone fucking left, right and centre unless you were very explicitly saying that you were queer. But then I guess these pop girlies they've happen to be very explicit to not be accused of that, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like, I suppose, well, I don't know, because Renee is doing like very physical acts of it, which is what like, I don't know, I always just go back to Madonna and Britney. Like, they did that, and then that was queer baiting, quote unquote. But then I remember ages ago I saw this tweet, and you know when a tweet just sticks out in your head forever, and it was literally just real people can't queer bait, and it's like,
it's true.
Yeah, that's true.
I saw in one of the researchers, someone who's, I've only put the last name down in my like thoughts doc. Her last name's Watercutter. Notes that it's through online presence and straightforward lyrics that they're like getting made these like iconoclastic as lesbians. And I thought that's like makes it sound so like pandering, like straightforward lyrics. Now everyone knows you're gay. Mm-hmm. Like there's no like like I feel like a massive thing of like in the 70s and 80s music kind of was a bit more less straightforward because people couldn't come out, but also like it's a bit more fun like decoding music, whereas like straightforward lyricism maybe, and I'm not saying this about Chappell, I love Chappell, but is it fair that they have to do that now? Like, is that an outcome of queer baiting, I suppose, or something that I was thinking about?
I mean, it's probably not an outcome of queer baiting, let's be honest. Like, because also, to take like a straight on straight example, it's that like no one says this about Olivia Rodrigo, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And she's also a very narrative songwriter. Lorde, another very narrative songwriter. I think there's just different types of songwriting. And personally, like, I fucking hate Boy Genius. Anyone who knows me will know I'm number one Boy Genius. I really like straightforward lyricism and storytelling in songs. Like, I find that way more appealing. So I think it's just, you know, different stuff that floats your boat.
Yeah, what appeals to you
Different strokes.
as like a creative, and also that's what I think that we are on the edge of, like, people being like those remember that Macklemore song? Like, that's kind of music's going to come back around.
What Macklemore song?
So, like, One Love, one being like, it's okay to be gay, one love, people love each other, one love, like the one that they spoofed in Popstar Never Stop In, the best film ever made. I feel like we're like these women are pioneering being explicitly queer in mainstream pop music, which is going to lead to like some really hellish tunes.
But then also we already are existing in a timeline when that exists, so we would be remiss not to mention Jojo Siwa. Come as a bitch.
Go on.
I should have known better.
It sounds like a song from like Community, doesn't it? Like, it just doesn't sound real.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
You just love narrative storytelling.
It's such a good earworm. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And what's your point?
In that, like, you're saying that we're going to see an era of commercialized gay pop music when we have Jojo Siwa running about saying, I'm inventing gay pop music.
As she should.
And like, I feel like there's just different audiences for different things, and where people get confused is that, like, Chappell is breaking into the mainstream or the Hot 100s or the charts, so therefore I think it's easy to lump her in with like a Jojo Siwa, but then you'd never kind of compare, I don't know, like a Beyonce to someone bad.
Yeah, I guess it all boils down to is like gay people can also have bad art.
Yeah, 100%. We've already said this in the Dylan episode. Like, Jojo Siwa is cringe as fuck, obviously, and it's so funny, and I'm glad it's a meme. But we're kind of already there in terms of we have every single version of a thing.
Yeah.
The world doesn't exist how it did exist in the 80s or the 90s, where it was like Sleater Kinney existed and Riot Girl was a original like groundswell movement, which then was capitalized on by music labels that wanted to create copies of it, because everything is there at the same time now because of the internet.
Yeah, that's so true.
We have access to it all, and it's up to us to choose our own adventure.
Oh, I used to love Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Yeah,
you never see them anymore?
Oh yeah, this leads me to two very important points though, in which I'd say that, like, one, this is not the first, like, lesbians in pop have existed for a long time. You know, Tegan and Sara. Oh yeah, because did you see that TikTok Tegan and Sara did where it was like the clip of Jojo Siwa being like, I'm inventing gay pop music, and then they were just like,
hello. Yeah, they're just like leaning into the camera.
The point is, while there have been like lesbian music, because obviously like some of these steer towards more alternative, is that there hasn't been like a groundswell moment where so many mainstream figures or people are breaking into an extremely mainstream space. So the Billboard article I quoted says, like, you know, queer pop stars exist, Rena exists, all of like other people, Muna, Girlie and Red, but they never cross over into the main charts. So like, what makes Chappell Roan different, which is something that we've obviously addressed in our own way in this episode.
Yeah, I think my final thoughts, like towards the end of reading the research,
we're not at the end.
Oh, go on. We're almost at the end of the episode.
Yeah, but we've still got 5 minutes. Make them all count.
I was going to say my point that we could discuss.
Okay, go on.
Jesus. I was also thinking, like, reading all of this, like, whether I think visibility... Obviously, I think representation is good, but I'm not sure how I feel about visibility after kind of, like, watching the rise of Drag Race, and then, like, alongside it, the rise of, like, some really vitriolic views on drag and queer people.
Well, what's your point, sorry?
Like, I'm worried about it. Like, the more visible that we make ourselves as queer people, like, it seems the more, like, backlash we get.
Well, I think we exist in a world as well in which we correlate success with popularity and like mainstream success. And for someone like Chappell Roan or Renee Rap, who are very obviously like commercial pop stars, that makes sense. But I don't think we can diminish the cultural importance of like less famous but very influential stars that have come before them, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
it's not like this is a straightforward moment of like, this is visibility, which means everything will get better. It's just like a continuation of a rich history that has already been built upon. And saying that, before we finish, I'd like to mention that like this is quite obviously very white. Like,
Yeah. It's so funny you
white.
said that, because I've literally my last sentence is, why do we mark our success by straight parameters and goals? What about all the queer musicians who don't want to be commercialised? Opening doors just means making more money.
But there's also like a whole host of, you know, non-white musicians and artists that have been dealing in like sapphic lyricism forever that haven't had any sort of mainstream break because they're not dealt the same cards as
100%.
their white counterparts. So
100%.
Counterparts. So this isn't like a breakthrough moment of the system changing. It's just that, you know, the most common denominator is getting a chance to rise to the top.
Do you think that like this will lead into there being more specifically lesbian pop stars then, or do you think it will just be like a memory that we have, like, oh, remember when we had that like really cool out pop star, like kind of like how we look back on like George Michael or whatever?
It depends. I mean, I think thinking like that kind of reverts back to what we were saying about like people being invented in the pop factory, and there is like a huge machine obviously that decides who's famous and who's not in terms of like label support and la 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 la. Maybe it's just that like more people are more comfortable being out as well, because as you said, like so many pop stars, musicians, especially women, when like all of women's marketing is based on their sexuality and like how they can be read as sexy, like, you know, the days of like Harry Styles not being allowed to say he had a girlfriend or whatever, that very much applied to women as well, and not being able to, you know, be anything apart from a sexually available person.
Oh my god, I actually know a band that this applies to.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you tell us?
No, I'll tell you after.
Oh, Gina, that's so mean.
I can't tell you someone else's. Can't out someone on the podcast.
Fucking hell, don't scream. Yeah, so whether hopefully it just leads for like more autonomy in the pop machine, but who can say?
Yeah, we're far from experts on predicting the trends of the pop industry, I suppose. But we've just got to have hope that it does signal that more people are comfortable being their authentic selves, I suppose.
Yeah, that would be my point as well, I'd say. I'd say.
Thank you, Ione.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you to Olivia for editing, and to Siham for the beautiful research.
Thank you to everyone for listening, supporting, loving, and reviewing.
And sorry if you can hear my cat. We're recording at home today, and he's so noisy.
He is so cute, though. Bye.
Bye.